Hey Jordan,
Long time no see.
it has been a minute. How are you?
I'm good. I recognize the headshot and I recognize the background. Actually, that might be a new background.
This is a new background. I can go back to one maybe that's a little bit more familiar.
Maybe a wood stove.
It's a pretty background.
Maddie Daniel used to work at Fíonta, so
Sure.
he knows us well.
Cool.
Hi Maddie.
There you
Hi
go,
Karen.
Daniel.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Daniel. I'm a solution engineer at Salesforce for nonprofit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you know Melissa Rainbolt?
I don't know Melissa Rainbow. I am newer.
Okay.
I've only been around since, is it April? Was it that long ago? Something along
Okay.
those lines. So I'm still getting to know everyone.
She's a technical architect for nonprofit.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Do you know Paul Coleman?
I'm terrible at names.
It's
I
always
don't,
funny being
not
like, do you know this
immediately.
person? Do you know this person?
Yeah, I know Paul.
Yeah, Paul's great. He's here at the sprint. It's really cool.
Jordan. Daniel, how did you get here? Did you click the link in my email or in the calendar invite?
The calendar invite did not post a link for me, so I went to your email.
Okay.
There's
Sure.
Devin.
Yeah.
Hi, Devin.
Hi.
All right. Looks like we got a few folks here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to a practical guide for NPSP users, a four-part series exploring the path to Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to share who's in the room today. This is such a fantastic mix of nonprofits of all different sizes and missions, and I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to commit to these 4 weeks of learning together. If you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat, maybe share where you're joining us from today, and one thing you're hoping to get out of this series, that would be super helpful. One of the strengths of this cohort and why we decided to put this series together rather than a one-off is that you're not navigating these questions about nonprofit cloud alone or in some salesy webinar. Everyone here is working through similar decisions, even if the details look a little bit different. We hope you'll use this series not just to learn from us and from Salesforce, but also to listen for patterns and common challenges across the group. It's a great reminder that this is a shared journey. And with that, let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and thanks for being here. This is the first session in our 4-part series, and we're calling it, What is Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud, and Should We Be Thinking About It? If you're here, your organization is using NPSP today, and you've been hearing about Nonprofit Cloud, maybe from your Salesforce AE, in a webinar, maybe in the community chatter or LinkedIn, and I'm guessing you're here because the big question is, what does this actually mean for us? Our goal today is to slow things down and unpack it in plain English. We'll talk about why Salesforce created Nonprofit Cloud, how it's different from NPSP, and how to start thinking about whether it's a fit for your organization. We're also going to have a live demo from Maddie Earhart, who's a nonprofit solution engineer at Salesforce. Maddie, do you want to say hi?
Hi all, excited to be here. I was admin and fundraising volunteer coordinator working in CRM before Salesforce, been teaching NPSP and NPC for the last couple of years, and now I'm out here on solutions. I'm excited to show you all the product in a little bit.
Thanks, Maddie. And we're going to leave time for questions at the end, but I do want to make sure that throughout this presentation and discussion that you can throw your questions in the chat, and we'll sort of aggregate them and have a conversation at the end, just because we have limited time today. But we hope that you'll walk away with some practical tools that you can use with your team as you all focus on moving towards Nonprofit Cloud, if that's what you choose to do. So here's how we're going to spend the hour. First, I'm going to take about 20 minutes to set the stage, why Salesforce created Nonprofit Cloud, what's new and different about it, and when and if it makes sense to stay on NPSP. Then Salesforce is going to jump in with a live demo so you can see what the technology looks like in action. And as I mentioned, after that, we'll leave about 10 minutes for questions. And then I'll wrap us up with some takeaways and a quick preview of what we're going to cover next week. So you could think of today as a mix of context, product, and conversation. Let's start with some quick details about Fíonta. You'll see this smiling face over in this corner here in week 3. He's actually going to be joining us. His name is Sonny Wilkinson, and he is the Major Gifts Officer and Plan Giving representative from the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. And he's going to spend some time talking about their recent NPSP to NPC migration so that you all can have some real client-specific learnings, best practices, and things that you can take away as you go back to your organizations to have these additional conversations. But he's also a great guy, friend of mine. Next slide. Fíonta is a diverse, inclusive, and equitable workplace where we work hard to ensure that every employee and contractor feels valued and respected, no matter their background or identity. And our name, I like this slide because it helps people understand what Fíonta means. And it's actually the Gaelic word for wine, or Fionn. If you're a wine fan, you'll know that fine wine is all about individual components coming together to create something greater as a whole. And we believe that we do that as well. So a little bit about our expertise, and I'm not going to go through this bullet by bullet, but we are experts in Nonprofit Cloud, Nonprofit Success Pack, Sales and Service Cloud, Revenue Cloud, and Commerce Cloud. We also have expertise in Marketing Cloud, Data Cloud, and other Salesforce technologies. We have a dedicated UI UX practice, so we really like to focus on the human at the center of all the technology projects that we work on. And we're experts in data migration. But the key thing here, and in the next slide we'll talk about this, is that we only work with nonprofits, foundations, and associations. So the Salesforce ecosystem is a really big one. There are a lot of different partners in the space, the big partners, the small partners, other partners. And our focus is dedicated on implementing Salesforce, migrating legacy systems to Salesforce for nonprofits, foundations, and associations. So we have deep expertise in not only Salesforce as a platform, but nonprofit, foundation, and association business processes, and how we can optimize the Salesforce platform, be it NPSP or NPC, to support your needs now and into the future. And we also have a pretty wide group of strategic partnerships with other third-party applications that can extend the power of Salesforce to meet your needs. Right? Karen, who's on the call here, put together this slide about me with some pictures that I provided. But a little bit about me: I've worked with Salesforce across nonprofits, foundations, federal government agencies, and Fortune 50 companies. I have 13 Salesforce certifications. I helped write the Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud certification with a select group of subject matter experts from across the kind of Salesforce ecosystem. And I live in upstate New York, in a county called Washington County near the southern Vermont border, with my wife and 3-year-old son, who can be seen here. In my free time, I'm studying to become a master beekeeper. I keep bees, tend my garden, swim, fish, all the rural New York things that one does. So this is a little bit about me. And I'm just really passionate about the Salesforce platform and helping nonprofits. Now we're going to go on to why Salesforce created Nonprofit Cloud. So this graphic is basically going to talk about sort of the evolution of the Salesforce platform for nonprofits. So NPSP has a long history. It was created in 2008, originally called the Nonprofit Starter Pack. It was a community-driven, largely volunteer effort to give nonprofits a way to use Salesforce to meet their unique needs. This was in a time when Salesforce was really geared towards the sales process and sales people, hence the name Salesforce, before it sort of evolved into the complex, multifaceted organization that it is today. A few years later, Salesforce.org, which was its own nonprofit, basically picked it up and invested in it. And then it became what was called the Nonprofit Success Pack, or NPSP. It's been incredibly successful as a CRM for nonprofits. Thousands, I would say tens of thousands of nonprofits still run on NPSP, and it has definitely had a huge impact on how the sector has used technology over the last 15 years. But like any system that's been around for that long, it started to accumulate complexity. It was originally built on older Salesforce technologies like Visualforce pages, leveraging custom objects, and a managed package design, which basically limits which has natural limits as Salesforce continues to evolve the platform. And I'll talk about some of that in more detail in a moment. In 2023, so 2 years ago now, Salesforce launched Nonprofit Cloud. And there were 4 main reasons for that decision from my perspective. One was architecture. Nonprofit Cloud is built directly into the Salesforce platform, what they call core, using modern capabilities, including Lightning Experience, Flow, data processing engine, and really embedded into the entire Salesforce platform, means that it's now able to take advantage of dedicated development teams at Salesforce, the release cadence that Salesforce provides. And it's the same architecture that powers Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Health Cloud, and other industry clouds, including Revenue Cloud and Commerce Cloud. This is important because it means that nonprofits now get to benefit from innovations across industries. And Nattie's going to talk a little bit about what that means when she does her demo. But basically, it's you're able to take advantage of features that may have been released for Health Cloud around patient intake, right? There's a use case for individual case management intake. So there's a variety of processes that Salesforce has built out over time that, while not directly developed for the nonprofit use cases, has use cases that can then be adopted by the product team and then rolled out to nonprofit cloud users over time, which means you're able to take advantage of the billions of dollars that Salesforce R&D pours into their product and platform every year. Integration, because it's a part of Salesforce core, Nonprofit Cloud connects much more smoothly to other Salesforce products like Marketing Cloud, Data Cloud, Service Cloud, and more. And instead of bolting these things on, they work together. And during releases, interoperability is a critical part of testing and deployment, which basically means as they roll out a new feature for Nonprofit Cloud, they're going to test it test it against the other Salesforce architected pieces, which means that you're going to have less issues around bugs being introduced and more compatibility if you're using other Salesforce products as part of your tech stack. Support and focus. With NPSP, Salesforce had to maintain a separate code base and support model. With it being on core, Nonprofit Cloud lets them focus their development and support resources on one modern platform. So improvements come faster and support is streamlined, since there aren't one-off pieces of code. Think of volunteers for Salesforce sort of sitting out there on its own, and then Salesforce updates a release and things are going to conflict potentially. And then the final thing is scalability. Larger nonprofits, especially where we're starting to hit limits in NPSP, especially when managing millions of records, right? You can imagine data skew is an issue with Salesforce more broadly, but NPSP as a managed package just has some limitations to what it can handle in terms of volume. Nonprofit Cloud specifically has a tool called Data Processing Engine, and this is kind of where I nerd out, but essentially it's a new technology that's only available to industry clouds like Nonprofit Cloud, and it basically allows you to process large volumes of data much more efficiently. So you can fire off what would look like a flow, if folks are familiar with flow, and then manage of millions of records asynchronously and not have to worry about things tripping up in your new environment. So it scales to meet more complex needs because it's really designed for not only the small organizations, but the larger organizations that are leveraging Salesforce. I mean, think about the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis, all these major corporations have to operate at a scale, and therefore the system needs to be able to scale down and scale up to that level. So that's a nice benefit of Nonprofit Cloud. So this isn't really that there's anything wrong with NPSP today. It's about Salesforce taking everything it learned from the past 15 years of NPSP and rebuilding it inside the core platform so nonprofits are ready for the next 15. The big thing here is that they are now aligning Nonprofit Cloud with their platform and development approach. And that means that Nonprofit Cloud will be more reliable in the long term. I'm trying to use this analogy here, and it's sort of rocky, but I'll explain this to you in the sense that, like, I think of NPSP being a house planted on ground that's moving, right? Evolving ground, if you will. As the ground moves, Salesforce innovating on its platform, that house is going to need to be shored up over time to ensure it doesn't fall over, right? Because you sort of have a static packaged approach here that's on an evolving platform, and inherently that's going to become brittle over time. So a little bit about how NPC differs from NPSP. So a lot of words on this slide, and this graphic is helpful, but let's talk about this concept of a toolkit versus a complete solution. When we say NPSP is a toolkit, we're talking about how the data model works. As you probably know, NPSP is a managed package, which in Salesforce language is basically an app that's installed on top of or into your Salesforce environment. And that's Sales Cloud. And the central structure is called the household account model. The idea is that every individual donor belongs to a household account. So if you have a couple or a family, their giving history and relationships can be tracked together. It's a clever solution, and it worked really well when NPSP was first created, but it's unique for nonprofits, right? It's not how Salesforce's standard account model was originally designed, which means it can add some complexity when you're trying to integrate with other Salesforce products. And that toolkit idea shows up in other places too. If you want to track program for delivery, for example, you're typically going to add another managed package like the program management module or outbound funds, and then connect it back to NPSP. It works, but it means you're stitching multiple pieces together, and it becomes, as I mentioned before, brittle over time. Nonprofit Cloud takes a different approach. Because it's built natively in Salesforce Core, the nonprofit data model is part of the platform itself. Concepts like participants, programs, and outcomes are baked in, not bolted on toolkit style. Fundraising and program management aren't separate objects that are basically installed from different packages. They're connected by design. That structural shift matters because it affects how you report, how you scale, and how easily you can integrate with other Salesforce products. You're not working across layers anymore. You're truly working inside one unified platform. The demo you're going to see from Maddie from Salesforce in a few minutes will highlight features like fundraising and program management. What I want you to remember is that the deeper difference lives here in the underlying data model. NPC isn't new siding on an old house. It's a new house built on a stronger foundation. We're going to talk a little bit about the features, and then I'm going to pass it over to Maddie. So fundraising is the first thing we're going to talk about. In NPSP, fundraising is the anchor with the household account model, recurring donations and gifts. But the way it works often requires configuration and extensions, and reporting can be fragmented if you want to look at the full donor journey. Nonprofit Cloud reframes fundraising as a complete suite, built specifically for the people actually doing the work, like gift officers, development directors, campaign managers, and back office fundraising operations staff. And the thing to note here is that, well, yes, there are different personas that are sort of outlined in how NPC works. For many of our nonprofits, especially for folks on this phone, you may have one person playing multiple roles. So I just want to flag that as well, that this is not just for folks that have, the wide variety of staff members. It can really be a single person as well. It's organized into three main areas. The first is philanthropy and partnerships. This is about cultivating and managing the relationships that drive big impact: individual major donors, foundations, corporate partners. In NPC, there are tools for portfolio management to give you a clear view of each donor or partner. Interaction summaries, interest tags, opportunities, and pledges are all in one place. It helps fundraisers spend less time digging for information and more time building relationships. Actionable List, which Maddie's actually going to show in a few minutes, is a powerful tool that's only available in Nonprofit Cloud or industry clouds that takes advantage of that tool called Data Processing Engine I mentioned earlier to help segment and assign new or existing donors to major gift officers or fundraisers or others to allow them to follow up and make appeals to. And the nice thing about this feature, which Maddie will go into, is that you don't have to rely on a static value on a contact record, for example, to say this person is a potential major donor. You don't have to rely on reports. You can set up the logic that basically you want to define your list segmentation, and then it'll basically run on a job, and any new donors or any new individuals that meet a certain threshold that you defined will then be assigned to a list that you can then take action on. It's pretty slick, and Maddie will show what this looks like in a minute. Donor engagement is the second one, and this is where appeals, campaigns, and audience segmentation live. You can design multi-channel outreach like email, direct mail, events, and personalize it based on giving history or interest tags. A big improvement here is the use of source codes or outreach source codes, which lets you track appeal performance in real time. That means you can test strategies, adjust mid-campaign, and truly understand the return on investment. In NPSP, you could track campaign metrics, right? How many opportunities close from a campaign, but it often took customization or third-party tools to get to the level of insight at the appeal level that would be sort of underneath the campaign. Fundraising operations is the third, and this is the part that back office staff will appreciate. Nonprofit Cloud introduces a new gift data model, plus single and batch gift entry built for scale. There's also what's called a business process API for folks that like to nerd out on API integrations that basically allow you to set logic in an integration that would create sort of the flow down of gift related data that you'll see when you actually get to use the Salesforce platform. So instead of having to create sort of a cascade of records, the business process API can handle that, and that's new for Nonprofit Cloud. For larger nonprofits handling millions of transactions, it's critical. It means fewer bottlenecks, fewer errors, and more consistency in how gifts are processed. So when you're thinking about fundraising and NPC, don't just think donor records and donation, think full cycle, right? Relationship building, engagement, operations, all tied together. All right, the next piece here we're talking about briefly is the program suite. So in Nonprofit Success Pack, program tracking is either done custom or with the program management module or PMM, which is added on top. Not all nonprofits that use NPSP use the program suite, but it is available. It's free on the App Exchange. It's still an extra package, right? And you need to connect it to NPSP for reporting. Nonprofit Cloud was designed with a full program suite from the start. That means participant services, casework, and outcomes are part of the same data model as fundraising. Here's what that looks like. 1, program delivery. You can define cohorts and enroll individuals into them. You can then plan and record service delivery using recurring schedules, track attendance, and see exactly who's being served and how often. This is super powerful for those of you who are running ongoing workshops, classes, or provide regular services. Case management, which used to be its own standalone application that cost money, was a Salesforce app, is now provided as part of Nonprofit Cloud, which provides tools to personalize journeys for organizations that deliver more one-on-one care. You can create individualized care plans, log referrals, track assessments, and add notes across the participant's timeline. This really helps case managers save time and keep a consistent record of a participant's needs and progress. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, right, a lot of these things have parallels in the health industry, right? So the health cloud data model and some of the features that were within that model apply to case management. So you're able to take advantage, both health cloud customers and NPC customers can sort of take advantage of some similar processes and features, which is just a net win for everyone. And you can also take advantage of other organizations' innovations on the Salesforce platform as part of Nonprofit Cloud. The final thing I want to talk about, and I think this one is really the sweet spot for program management, is that there's a whole new part of the Salesforce product here that's called outcome management. And outcome management ties programs to mission level impact. So you can not only set a theory of change or logic model within the system, but you can define intended outcomes, you can set your indicators, and measure progress over time. It's designed to help you answer questions like, are we achieving the goals we set out to? What is our impact at the participant, program, and organizational level? And importantly, it aligns your fundraising story with your program story. Instead of saying we ran 200 community vaccination events, you can say we provided 1,276 vaccines to 895 people living on Skid Row in 2025. So you're able to basically tie your program services to those outcomes and really get some more granular reporting and show how you're moving the needle on your organizational goals. So the real value here is that you're able to connect participants, services, and outcomes in one place. And because it's the same platform as fundraising, it bridges the gap between donor dollars and program results. The final piece I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to hand it over to Maddie for a demo, is Nonprofit Cloud right for my organization? And there's a lot of different factors in here, right? So the question you're probably asking yourself is Nonprofit Cloud right for us? There are some strong signals that you may be ready. If your org is planning for growth or scaling programs, NPC's architecture is designed to handle larger volumes of data and connect fundraising and program outcomes more natively. Like we talked about above, For fundraisers, it means being able to show a donor not just how much money you raise, but what those dollars accomplished in real terms. And for our program staff, it means seeing service delivery and participant outcomes alongside donor engagement in one view. It's also a great option for nonprofits new to Salesforce entirely. New implementations can jump directly into NPC without having to carry over years of NPSP customizations. Another reason to consider is innovation. Salesforce has been clear. Future development energy is going into Nonprofit Cloud. Features like Agentforce, deeper integrations with Marketing Cloud, user interface enhancements, things that Maddie can talk about in a minute. If you want to take advantage of these new features, NPC is where they're going to appear. There are good reasons to stay put on NPSP for now. If your current system is working, your staff know how to use it, you're meeting reporting needs, and you're not hitting performance walls, and if resources are limited, it might be smarter to stabilize your existing environment while you do your planning for the future. Heavy customizations may be another reason to wait. Many nonprofits have invested years of work in tailoring NPSP to their needs. Migrating these custom solutions takes careful planning and budget. Jumping too quickly risks losing important processes. Beginning the planning soon, however, may be prudent. And truthfully, it's just about priorities. If you've got a website rebuild going on, or maybe some other large technical project, this may not be the right time. You don't have to do everything at once. The other thing I like to call out here is around the appetite for change or change fatigue. It's important to think about the people involved in these projects and ensure that they are ready to actively participate and embrace this change, right? Because that's how implementations fail if you've done this too often. The takeaway here is that this isn't about rushing. Salesforce isn't turning off NPSP tomorrow. It'll be supported for years, although no new features will be added. What's important is starting to evaluate your timeline with intention. What do you need today? What will you need in 1 year, 2 or 3 years? How do we align our technology roadmap with our strategic goals? That's what this cohort is about, helping you answer those questions in a practical, grounded way. So when you decide to move, you'll do it at the right time for your organization. And with that, I'm really happy to reintroduce Maddie Earhart, Nonprofit Solution Engineer at Salesforce, who is going to demo Fundraising and Program Suite, and then we'll go into the question period. Maddie?
Perfect. Thank you all so much. Okay. I cannot see chat right now, so if you have a question, please feel free to come off mute. But I'm excited to give you a little bit of a tour of what does Nonprofit Cloud look like? What is some of the differences here? We are going to start in the very first fundraising app that Jordan mentioned, which is our philanthropy and partnerships app. You can see right here, our admin has gone in and added this dashboard. And we're going to start today. We're going to be thinking about what does it look like to be running our end of year appeal? I know it's September. We're starting to think about what is that giving going to look like. In this case, I, as a major giving officer, want to make sure that I know which accounts are assigned to me, who are these donors that I'm stewarding. And so we're going to go into our very first kind of nonprofit cloud additional feature that Jordan spoke to, which is these actionable lists. This is different than a list view in that it is able to pull it is able to pull records based off of cross-cloud or cross-object filtering. We're also able to display fields across different objects. We're also able to have a status specific to this list. So this particular list is my major giving portfolio. But if I needed to have one for a specific capital campaign call down, or any project I'm working on, my admin is able to support me in defining which status I'm going to have, and then I can hop in and change them accordingly. In this case, I'm going to be talking to Alex Garcia later this afternoon, so I'm going to hop into her profile and think about making sure I am updated on what Alex is up to and her interaction with our organization. This is going to look a little different than what you have been working with in NPSP right now. So let me give you a little bit of an overview of this page. Up top, we have our highlights panel. Next, we have our activity timeline. This is what you've seen before, but we also have our fundraising timeline. And the reason I'm calling this out is you're able to use these different kinds of timelines to show different objects, not just tasks, events, and calls, but in this case, we have our different gift objects, which we'll hop into in a little bit. We also have at the top of the page our action plans. And it looks like we have an acknowledgement plan on here, so we can add our different templates and have different tasks assigned to different folks. I have my overview. Nonprofit Cloud does allow you to do address management. And so at this point in time, this is Alex's most current address. We are also going to see that there are more objects that are able to add layers of detail around giving. So this first one you're probably familiar with, it's opportunities. In NPSP, I know many customers choose to rename this to donations. In Nonprofit Cloud, we really see this as a gift that we're looking to steward and cultivate as we're thinking about, maybe we're looking at a legacy gift, a bequest, or maybe something that's major that we are cultivating, putting information towards. This is also a great object to use when you're seeking out grants. Once those funds come in, though, we're going to be looking them as gift commitments, which is our pledge, and gift transactions, which is those funds actually coming in. So it's a little bit different from our payments model. Another new improvement on top of this is our actionable relationship center. So we know that relationships are so key when we're thinking about donor engagement. Who knows whom? What are their relationships? These are very, very configurable. This entire diagram is called the Actionable Relationship Center. You can choose what are the objects that are showing up, what are the fields that are showing up about them. You can use a feature called flex cards to really design it and make it be exactly what you're looking for if the out-of-the-box fields are not serving what you need. In this case, it looks like we know that Alex is friends with Deborah Lynn, Gail Schultz, Jeffrey Stevens. All of these are things that I, as the major gift officer, want to keep in mind if I've had previous interactions with those folks. And I can also see those opportunities right on here so that I can move quickly throughout my day. Again, we're also able to manage those addresses. And so if I want to say that there is a spring address and a summer address, all of that I can manage here. You're also going to see on the side this donor giving summary. This is ultimately powered by the tool that Jordan mentioned earlier, that data processing engine, where it's rolling up all of these different objects and able to put together what are the averages that I need to know about. Total gifts, hard and soft credits, first gift date. All of these are fields that y'all can determine, but we also do give you out of the box definitions for. Nonprofit Cloud also features RFM scoring such that y'all can define our importance for recency, for frequency, for monetary, so that we can really prioritize which of our donors we need to spend a lot of time on as far as cultivating versus whom we can talk to maybe next quarter.
I have
And
a
then we have,
question.
please go ahead.
For that RFM scoring
Yeah.
piece, can that be populated or fed into by another piece of software? So
Yeah.
let's say you have your own platform that you already use. Can you feed the data into this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
I have a question also,
Yeah.
since there's already a pause. Do actionable lists work for other modules or records, not just contacts?
Yes.
Like
Actionable lists.
campaigns or programs?
Yes. Actionable lists can work for a number of objects. There is some documentation on that, but it doesn't just have to be accounts. It could be cases, it could be a number of things.
Thank you.
Absolutely. In addition to what we've talked about so far, we're introducing the interaction summary. And so it's a little bit more robust than just a note that you might be used to now, in that we can connect it to different objects. So of course, I'm hitting a new interaction summary here. I'll go ahead and refresh my screen briefly. I'm going to record a new interaction summary that's going to allow me to have notes, but I'm also able to add security onto that. So if we're discussing a bequest or if we're discussing a gift where the donor wants it to be private, I am able to have it only be shared with certain folks. I'm also able to attach it not only to Alex, but also to a number of other objects. So I can say this meeting was about this particular opportunity here. In this case, we can say that we just had lunch with Alex, and Alex is excited because they are really excited to be able to work with us in our end of year appeal, where they're going to be matching gifts up to $10,000. So all of these are things that I want to keep in mind, both for myself as a major gift officer and for other folks that I'm going to be that are going to be working with Alex, working with my donors.
And I'll just add, going back to the sort of industry sharing of research and development. The interaction summaries were actually developed for Financial Services Cloud to track private information about individuals' wealth conversations, right? So there's a clear parallel based on Maddie's sort of description and an example here with how fundraisers operate or how program or case managers operate. So this is another nice real world example of the interoperability and sharing of technology.
Absolutely. So these are some of the tools that we have in our Philanthropy and Partnerships app. I'm going to move into our donor engagement, but what I want folks to keep in mind as you're saying, oh my gosh, there's all of these different tools. If your team does not have an individual for each of these personas, fundamentally, these are all tabs on our platform. So if you wanted to move them around, then you could just have them in a single app. And we're going to see that later when we think about programs. So again, we think of philanthropy and partnerships as that hub for our major gift officer. We also have our donor engagement. This is typically where we see fundraising and marketing coming together to really strategize. In this case, we mentioned that Alex is interested in supporting our end of year appeal. So let's go ahead and make a campaign for that appeal. We'll come in, we'll make a new campaign. I'm sure y'all have worked with campaigns before, so I'll just quickly go ahead, end of year 2025. I can make sure that I am rolling this up to campaign to have the existing campaign roll-ups. We'll start it today. We'll mark it as active. And then I'm of course able to track what is our budgeted cost, what is our expected revenue, all of that information in here. There are some new things on the screen that you won't have seen in NPSP yet. So this first one is, again, we have that outreach summary. This is similar to what you saw format-wise in our major donor, in that this is a Lightning Web component that is specific to our industry clouds. And so this is our related record details display. But again, it's able to customize what are these different sections, what are the rollups here, and in this case, these are again going to be powered by that data processing engine to populate on our campaign as it's running. We have our different fields as well, and what I'm going to highlight is two features that I think are really supporting our donor outreach tracking. The first one is a gift default designation. So I can say all gifts coming in through end of year, those are always going to go to our general fund. I can also say that they're 100%, or if I wanted to say, 50% is going to be designated toward general fund, 50% is going to be towards a specific project. I can do that. I can also create designations for my programs so that I have that connection between my programs that are going to be, of course, funded by my fundraising team. And that way they can see what are the gifts coming in towards our program. We, of course, are always excited to have unrestricted donations and undesignated donations as well that we can allocate on our own. So I'll go ahead and save my end of year appeal to have that in that default designation. We also are introducing outreach source codes. These are a way for us to, as gifts are coming in, whether they're being manually entered or entered online, have it automatically designate to a specific segment. And so if I wanted to say for this particular appeal, we're going to have 2 email groups and 2 direct mail groups, we can start to A/B test what are the effect of our different marketing efforts. And so I can say that we're going to have an email chain here. We'll have these different platforms. And I'm able to specify that here. And my screen is a little bit messy today. There we go. That's my name. So I'll say that this is my direct. And I think this one's my email. We'll say current donors, last donors. And then maybe we have one for our volunteers and one for our major donors. And for the sake of demonstration today, I'm going to keep it simple and go EOY 1, EOY 2, and we're going to keep running. And it looks like my demo today is being a little bit picky with how I am throwing these in. So what we'll see when we keep going is that they are going to be moved around a little bit. And this is showing me a preview of what I just put in, and we'll go ahead and save that. And so as we're sending out direct mail solicitations, we're able to, of course, put onto the map kind of a little code at the bottom. And that's going to help when folks are sending back checks or if we're sending them out through an email source. That is going to let us track what segment did they come from so that we can have that be already integrated there. And those outreach source codes, again, apologies for my demo today, those are going to show up right here. Any questions on either major giving or donor engagement before we go into actually entering gifts?
And I have a question. Are you going to go into how this has changed, this model has changed as it relates to NPSP? So for instance, interactions, how is that different than actions that we're currently using? Or for gifts, what are the new models, the objects that are related to it that we're tracking for outright gifts, just to call it out?
Yeah, I can call it out more explicitly. I think one of the things you'll see is gift transactions and commitments are new. What I'll do now is we'll go in and actually enter a gift and I'll try and call out some of the differences, but I would say, please feel free to jump in and ask if something is confusing or different from what you're expecting.
Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely. So pulling it together, of course, we are thinking about cultivation, stewardship, we're thinking about making those asks, and now we're looking at actually bringing those gifts in. Our gift entry screen in NPC, you of course can enter gifts one at a time as they come in, but I know when I was in fundraising, you know, I'd come in and there would be a stack of checks on my desk. So we'll look at that quickly. I'm going to start a gift batch. And there are a couple of tools that are going to help me out here. So it can say, hey, you know, I have 10 checks on my desk. Please validate that I actually have 10 checks that I enter in case I miss them. I can also say, you know, I got a list in from Benevity and I want to make sure that the value I entered actually matches this $1,000 individual line items from Benevity here. So there's some helpful checking for you there. In this case, I will leave those blank just because we're doing a demonstration today. And what we're going to see is this is ultimately running on gift entries. Now, this gift entry is ultimately a junction object that's going to allow it to create those transactions and commitments later on. But this is the Nonprofit Cloud gift entry screen. You're first going to decide if this is an individual or an organization giving funds. And in this case, maybe that gift came in from Alex Garcia. So I'm selecting my individual gift, my donor, and then up at the top here, we're able to see what is the information we have about Alex. And if her address changed or something like that, we could make those changes here. I can also select my gift date. If I had any gift commitments that I was expecting around this time, they would show up here. So we know that sometimes donors will sign a pledge and we expect them to make a pledge or to make that payment within a certain time period. Those would be able to come up here. And then I can also put in that outreach source code. Now, my demo was giving me a challenge a moment ago, so I'm going to use one that already exists, but I'm able to search for those outreach source codes here. And we're having challenges today, that's okay. As I put in those outreach source codes, what that is going to do is it's automatically going to associate both the campaign that the source code is attached to and also a designation. So in this case, I will just go ahead and manually associate that with my end of year appeal. And then we'll go ahead and make that a check. And then we'll say that this was maybe a $1,000 donation from Alex. As I put in that gift amount, that designation is automatically popping up because I associated this designation with the campaign. And in this case, this is a 100% gift. And so 100% of my gift is going to be designated to this designation. And then if I wanted to add a soft credit as well, that is something that I could do here. As I am entering gifts, sometimes we know that they are going to be all coming they are going to be, all of them that I'm entering today are going to be received today. So if I wanted to, I could set up a default so that I could say, all of these are coming in at this time. I don't have to re-enter all of them. And so to your question about what is kind of different between NPSP and NPC, this screen is going to be different, but you also have these differences in the object here. So you have it's going to be separated out by that gift commitment and these outreach source codes. Once I'm done entering gifts, I can go ahead and exit this screen. Because I hit save, it has told me that in my gift entries I've entered so far, I've added one of them and my total batch so far is $1,000, and I can just keep entering them, hitting save. Once I have entered all the checks on my desk, they're all going to show up here as these gift entries. I can dry run my batch, and then I can also just go ahead and process it. And as it's processing, it's going to go ahead and create those records as I need them to. In addition to entering the gifts, Nonprofit Cloud also comes with Omni Studio, and one of the great features of Omni Studio is document generation. And so what I can do is I can generate documents for all of the gifts that I have needed. So maybe throughout the day, gifts are coming in, they're being entered by me through via an actual check. They're also coming in online. I want to say, okay, well, let me just go ahead and print all of my gifts that have come in for today. So maybe what I'll do is we'll look at this week, 25, and I have my donor acknowledgement template. I can preview it, make sure this is the one I actually want it to be. All of these different kind of squiggly lines, those are my mail merge fields. And then I can say, I want the gifts that came in between these. I also am able to update the status. So I say I want to select these are all to be acknowledged at this point. I also want to say that we've sent a tax receipt. And go ahead and generate. And what this is going to do is it's going to generate acknowledgement letters for all of those gifts in that criteria, and that'll show up as a file on this related list here, and then I can go ahead and print it. So that's a pretty high-level overview of fundraising. Any questions before we do a quick dive into programs? Because I want to make sure that we leave time for additional questions as well.
For those tax receipts, let's say there's some customization you need to do within a certain receipt afterwards. Are you able to like go in and change that, or when it's ready to print, is it like a PDF document?
It does generate a PDF document. So if you need to make changes, I would say you're probably going to want to do that at the template level.
And Matt, this is Karen. I just want to hop in and say that we're at the 48-minute mark.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Let's talk quickly about programs. And then I know this is a 4-week series, so anything we don't talk about today, we'll make sure that we cover it next week so that y'all continue to get this kind of full access, full experience. I will say I really like our learning orgs and our trial orgs so that you can really play around with them. They work really well with Trailhead as well. Okay. So we mentioned that, of course, we have our different fundraising personas. Nonprofit Cloud also comes built in with program management. And there's a good number of features around it. Today, we're going to be talking about those programs and services that y'all may be giving out. And so we're looking at a program right now. This is our food access program. You're going to see a couple of things. You're going to see the program enrollments. This is saying Alex is enrolled in this program. He doesn't have to be in any particular session yet, but we just want to track that he's enrolled in this. Under this program, we also give different benefits in NPSP and PMM. These are typically called services. But these are the different benefits folks can get as part of this. And then if we have action plans on this, we can track those here. You also, as I mentioned, can have a gift designation set up for this particular program, and then any gift transactions that are under that designation will show up here so that you can have that full visibility for your program staff if that is what your organization chooses to do. In this case, I also can see my upcoming sessions for this particular program. So under my food access program, I have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday nutritious cooking class. I can add participants right from here just by hitting add participants. I can also click into the record and take a look at it. And I can take attendance from this screen. So I can say, you know, this is going to be the 9-10 class. I want to add someone here. So I can come in, I can search either from the program participants who are already enrolled, or I can just search everyone in my database. Both of them are just going to depend on what your organization chooses to do, whether you're only going to be enrolling people from a particular list that have already been through some kind of intake process. In this case, I'll go ahead and add these folks here. And they are now added to my attendance list. And then as I'm coming in, I'm going to go ahead and take attendance. So I can just mark everyone here. I can also say, oh, Caleb didn't attend today. The other thing I can do is go ahead and change status. I can also say, oh, this person only came for half an hour, so we'll give them 0.5 hours of credit. I can apply that. And then if I want, instead of having them be enrolled, I can have them be attended, and I can update all of the ones that have boxes checked. And then if I have additional notes that I want to add as the person taking attendance, I can also add those custom fields through a benefit disbursement set. Once I go ahead and save that, now this attendance is going to be recorded to all of those through the benefits disbursement. And I'm able to see that on those. What questions do folks have at this point around those programs?
Maddie, there's a question in the chat that says, could you add leads to a program, or do you have to first specifically convert them to a contact?
Ooh, good question. In Nonprofit Cloud, you are going to be able to add program enrollments, accounts, or contacts. You're not able to enroll leads. You potentially could set up something custom to do that, but I think the idea is once they are enrolled in your program, they're no longer a lead.
I think that helps. I was more thinking, could you add them and then maybe you would have to set up some kind of flow where they become a contact by adding them to your program, but without going through that first step of taking them from a lead to a contact, then to add them. If you know they're becoming a contact because they're entering your program.
Yeah. And next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about case management, where we're going to look at what does an intake look like. And then I think that can help. You can add quite a lot of automation as far as, you know, they're coming in through maybe some kind of referral. Maybe they just gave us a call. We're going to do this intake. And on the end of the OmniScript, maybe we're going to say, turn them or create a program enrollment, turn them into or convert that lead, and then also enroll them in a program. That is all automation that you can add, but it's not something that comes out of the box.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Maddie, one more question from Devin. I would love to hear more on how you can tie the funding for each program in NPC. Will that be touched on at some point? What funding is funding a specific program?
Ooh, good question. So the way that that funding is tied together is going to be done through a gift designation, typically. If you wanted, you could create a custom field on here that says that here, but usually what we see is you'll create some kind of gift designation for your program. So in this case, we have a food access program. And then when you're entering those gifts, so let me come back to Alex and let's look at this gift designation or this gift transaction here. On my gift transaction, I have designations for them. So when we were looking at gift entry, and let me quickly come back into that screen. When we're making a gift entry, we can have that designation here. Or if we are not going through stacks, if we're just looking at a single gift right now, I can come into this gift and I can add that food access designation. So food access, I'll save that here. And we'll give this a 75 quickly and 100.
Very similar to GAU allocation. I think the key here is that it comes out of the box with the connection to the program object. so you can get those aggregations and roll up. Is that fair, Maddie?
The gift designations already exists. They're not natively connected, but it is just a matter of creating one for that program and then throwing the related
Right,
links on.
right. I just meant the relationship
Yeah.
between program and designation.
Yeah, so it's very easy to just create a designation for your specific program and then throw it on there. And then this is going to take a moment to load, but that gift transaction is going to show up here because we've assigned that designation. I know there were a couple of other questions that were kind of came in earlier, and I want to make sure we leave time for those.
Maddie, I'll just jump into the takeaways and then we'll do questions real quick. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, excellent. So just a final note here is we're giving you guys 2 takeaways. They're both in the Zoom chat. Karen just popped them in and we'll send them by email as well. The one on the left here is a side-by-side comparison of NPSP and Nonprofit Cloud for fundraising. It's a deeper dive than we've done in the session, so you can really dig into it if you're interested. The other one on this side is a systems and integration worksheet. We designed this to get you mapping your current tech stack. You can enter the systems you're using, who owns them, whether they're connected to Salesforce. Our hope is that with today's session, the comparison guide and the worksheet you'll have the big picture view and a practical starting point for additional internal conversations. So we got about 4 minutes left. Do folks have additional questions that we haven't answered in the chat?
I know there was one question at the top asking about if we still recommend an org migration if you're moving from NPSP to NPC. The answer is that we do. And the reason for that is they're just different data models. And so we recommend moving from the old org to the new org so that you can really take advantage of that data model. I think that's also a good opportunity to say, do we need 30-year-old data, or do we want to just start fresh with the data that's most relevant to us?
One other question, this may be answered in the future, but if our organization was to think about migrating, what would the timeline look like for that? Like, how long does it take if you're already a NPSP user?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to get into this, Maurice. I think it's very situational based on sort of what you're taking. We've done them in 3 months. We've done them in 11 months. It really, I think, we'll get into the process itself, but I would say it varies based on how you're using NPSP today.
Thanks.
I know in chat there was also a question on Agentforce, what that's going to look like NPSP, NPC. On the Salesforce side, we have announced we're no longer developing new features for NPSP. And so if you're interested in some of that agentic AI, there are Agentforce for sales features that you can take advantage of. And so if you're looking for something like that, please do reach out to your account executive. They can happily walk you through our foundation SKU, which gives you some of those credits just to get started with. But if you're looking for nonprofit specific AI, that's only going to be created for Nonprofit Cloud.
And I think that the subtext here is it's not about gatekeeping that stuff. It's really in my message to Daniel, it's about it leverages the Nonprofit Cloud data model in some way, or there's a dependency on Nonprofit Cloud, which is sort of why it's not available outside of it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Let me just pull up my screen here. A little thank you slide. And we'll see you all back here. I'm actually going to be flying, but you'll be joined by my esteemed colleagues, and we'll be back 11 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, next Wednesday, September 17th. Thank you and have a fabulous rest of your day.